action.
Hey guys, so Dr. C here, and so we're going to start doing our procedure with our titration. So if you look here, on number 1, it talks about rinsing out everything that we're using because we want to make sure that everything's clean and we don't have any impurities. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rinse out our burette. So here's our burette. If you don't remember, we used these last semester, and we're going to rinse it out. So I need a liquid funnel and something to catch my water. I'll move it down a little bit, distilled water, and you just kind of pour a little bit in there. Don't need a ton, just enough to get it kind of wet and going. And then I open it up, and I'll slide it up a little bit so you can see the liquid coming out. I just moved it down because I'm short. And so the water will just drain. And so we'll give it a little bit of time to drain. After it drains, then we're going to fill it up with our sodium hydroxide. And so here is our sodium hydroxide. Now, one thing you want to note is the concentration. So you want to write this number down on your piece of paper. We're supposed to use around 0.2, but on the bottle, it tells you exactly the molarity, the concentration of the sodium hydroxide. So keep that in mind because you want to use the this value because it's more precise than your 0.2. So especially when you're doing your calculations. All right, so now we want to pour a little bit of our sodium hydroxide into here to rinse it out. And usually you want to pour from a big thing, but I have a PhD, so I can pour from a big thing. I'm used to it. You just slide it down because I'm a short person. So you just want to pour a little bit of your sodium hydroxide in. We don't need a ton. There we go. And then let that drain. So we're doing this, we're letting it drain out because we don't want the sodium hydroxide that's going to be reacting with our vinegar to be diluted. And so now that the sodium hydroxide has been in the burette, now we should assume that most of the water that we put in to rinse in that first little rinsing trial should be kind of gone, and we should only have our sodium hydroxide. So after we let this go, now we're going to start actually getting ready to do the experiment. So part 3 is telling us to fill up our burette. Now we want it to be close to 0 because we don't have to refill it up again. If we go down here, we might not have enough. So we want to fill it up to close to 0, but you don't have to spend like all this time getting it exactly to 0. As long as it's below 0, then you can just read what the actual number is that you're starting with because you can just do the math and figure out how much you used later on. So we're almost to the end, and once it's completely to the end, then I can fill it up and get it to our starting volume. All right. So now we're going to fill it up, and we want to try to fill it up as close to 0. If you go over, it's okay because we can drain it out a little bit. But you don't want to go so over that it spills everywhere. Take your time, no rush. I'm going to pull my burette down a little bit. Since I'm a short person, can only go so high on your little tippy toes. All right, that's pretty darn close. All right, let me just make sure any air bubbles are out. Let me move the funnel. And so what you need to do now is you need to record that number. It is below the 0, so you should be able to record it. Remember with the meniscus, that you record it at the bottom of the meniscus. All right, so you should have that. That's going to be our initial volume. So you want to record that initial volume right here. So this is going to be the initial volume of our burette that we started with, okay? And on the next video, we're gonna move on to step 4.